I've got another story for y'all today. This one, you know, there's not much I can say about it. It's a silly one and I enjoy it so much. So, let's not waste any time trying to explain what it is. Let me just show you. Without further ado, sit back, relax, do what you're going to do, multitask, and let me tell you a story. This one's called An Unexpected Snow. Dude, what are you doing with that carrot? Nigel asked his best pal Randy, scandalized. I'm giving him a willy, Randy answered, as though it were simply what was done in these situations. No, Nigel groaned. Snowmen don't have willies, man. That's supposed to be his nose. Can't we just dig out his nose? Randy stuck a finger into the middle of the snowman's head and carved out a cavity. Ugh, now he looks like Skeletor. Who the fuck is Skeletor? I don't know, my dad collects action figures. Randy finished putting the carrot where he felt it belonged. All done. Now he looks like Skeletor with a boner. You're right, Randy assessed their work. He does need a scarf. What? I didn't say that. Nigel always felt like he and his best friend were just a little off center from each other, coming at things from opposite sides of the exact same track. But you implied it. Did not. Nigel shook his head. So what if our snowman has a hard-on? Either way, we still have the day off from school, which completely kicks all the ass. Yeah, Randy agreed. 6th grade is lame. And I hate Miss Perkins. She eats boogers and dissects stray cats when she's not at school. Barney Jitz saw her. Jitz? That guy's a nut job and you know it, Randy. Yeah, but he once saw Miss Perkins eating boogers and dissecting a cat for fun. Bitch should have been grading my math homework. Dude, Nigel protested. She did not. Jitz is nuts. You have a crush on her, don't you? Randy asked, teasingly. Do not, man. She eats boogers and dissects cats. Told you. Randy thought for a moment. So what's the weirdest fucking thing you ever saw? Nigel thought for a moment, looking over at the snowman's erection. At that very moment, the two boys' reverie was upset by the snow flying in all directions around them, accompanied by an earth-shaking roar. The boys rolled out of the way, turned, and saw an enormous polar bear gnashing its teeth and waving its claws in their direction with deadly intent. Holy fuck! Nigel shouted in pants-wetting terror. Shit in my mouth! Randy agreed. Dude! Nigel barked scathingly in reply. Don't worry, boys! A new voice broke in. The polar bear stopped growling, taking a moment to wrap its head around the mere concept of the new arrival. Nigel and Randy turned to see a golden palomino rearing up on its hind legs and whinnying heroically as the rider raised a battle-ready fist into the air. The horse landed its feet on the ground, and the man slid off of the saddle, his boots crunching into the snow. The man walked slowly, deliberately, over to the boys and the nonplussed, ravenous polar bear, his spurs jingling with every step. The boys looked the man over in astonishment, from red, white, and blue striped boots to his silver sequined wide-brimmed hat. The man was nearly naked, in fact, between his astounding boots and hat, wearing only a purple bespangled G-string over his ample endowment, a purple velvet mask over his eyes, and a pair of white gloves, highlighted with silver sequins and red, white, and blue streamers hanging from the sides. He nodded to the boys. Boys? Then to the polar bear. Polar bear? Dude, why the hell is there a wild polar bear in Texas? And aren't you fucking cold? Nigel asked. You're right to ask, son. Polar bears do not belong in Texas. Studying the man's wardrobe intensely, Randy added, "But you sure do." "Dude!" Nigel shouted. "His eyes are up there!" "Yeah," Randy agreed, "but I think I just hit puberty. Gross, dude." Paying no mind to the boy's banter, the man regarded the snarling bear. "But you never know what may show up in an unexpected snow. In fact, I can't remember the last time we had a snow quite like this. Either way, I'll take care of it." "Dude," Nigel suggested to his friend, pointing, "let's go stand over there beside that horse." Randy didn't respond. Nigel tugged him. "Dude! You can keep going through puberty over there!" "Right!" Randy snapped out of his G-string-induced preteen trance and followed his friend, a relatively safe distance away from the nearly naked man and the bear. "Well, bear," the man said, cracking his knuckles, "let's dance." The bear roared out in anger, lunging forward and slashing at the man with his ferocious claws. The man, his well-muscled body and his wits his only weapons, dodged the bear's blows easily, stepping in close to punch the bear in its mighty ribcage. The man thought, "something's off about this." He punched the bear in the face, and the bear flew backwards, landing on his back. "The bigger they are," the man quipped, "the harder they fall." The bear leapt up, landing on its hind legs, feeling ready now for the fight it had found with this strange intruder. The bear threw a punch at the man, who stepped back, dodging the blow. The bear threw another and another, the man dodging each punch as it came. The man threw a punch of his own, and the bear blocked with one mighty paw, while using the other to land a blow across the man's jaw. The man flew back 10 feet, sliding backwards through the snow when he hit the ground. He looked up to see the boys, who had been watching the combat with wonder. "Don't worry, boys. Didn't even bruise." He pushed himself up, got to his feet, and dusted the snow from himself as the bear moved in for more. "Yeah," Nigel said, "but aren't you cold?" he asked for the second time. "Perhaps," the man answered, "on some level." He shook the snow from his shiny brown chin-length hair. "But I long ago trained my body to maintain a solid temperature of 98.6 degrees, regardless of my surroundings." He jumped forward, leaping like a frog and flying directly at the bear's undefended chest. The bear roared in frustration, scolding itself for not anticipating the move and blocking accordingly. "Caught you off guard," the man boasted, "just as you hoped to catch those poor little boys, didn't you, villain?" The bear growled the equivalent of, "I would have gotten away with it too," then slashed at the man with fierce killer claws, as if to say that he might yet win the day in spite of the interruption. The man grabbed hold of one of the bear's paws and swung the bear around through the air in a circle before letting go and watching the bear fly into the trees. The bear growled, finding its feet again, sparks shooting out of its neck where it had impacted one of the trees. "Gadzooks!" the man exclaimed. "That bear is a robot!" The bear growled defiantly, flinging open a panel on its chest and aiming a missile at the man. "A missile, eh?" the man asked with a knowing wink. "I could do this all day, Mr. Bear." "Dude!" Nigel shouted. "Move!" "Run, mister! You're gonna get killed!" Randy chimed in. The horse behind them whinnied as though it were laughing at their worry. With a victorious sneer, the bear fired the missile from its chest. The man smiled at the youngsters. "Don't worry, boys. I deal with these sorts of things just about every gosh darn day, if you'll pardon my almost swears." As the missile found him, he moved to the side and took hold of it, wrapping his arms around it and putting the missile in a chokehold. He maneuvered himself on top of it, riding it like a bucking bronco until he had tamed it. He steered the flying missile back in the direction of the bear, who looked on in horror. This ought to teach you not to fire missiles at strangers, mister. The bear laughed a growly sort of laugh as the man rode the missile right toward him. The bear's eyes lit up green, and he fired an intense salvo of laser beams at the missile, causing it to explode. The bear laughed and laughed as the explosion dissipated, and there was no sign of the man. The bear turned its attention hungrily back to the boys and the horse. Before he could pursue them, however, the man landed in the snow in front of him, fully intact. Surprised, Mr. Bear? I anticipated your move and somersaulted into the air just before your lasers hit. You failed to notice because, while it may be a formidable weapon, my suspicion that you would be temporarily blinded while firing lasers out of your eyes seems to have proven correct. The bear shook a defiant paw at the man and ran in anger to meet him where he stood and tear him limb from limb. He was, of course, disappointed when the man ducked, dodging deadly claws yet again. The man grabbed the bear's legs and flipped the ferocious beast over his shoulders, slamming it down on its back. The bear leapt up on its feet, throwing more punches without the slightest hesitation. The man did a backflip and landed a solid kick with a patriotic boot right in the bear's hungry jaw. The bear flew back 30 feet, crashing into yet another tree. He stood back up as quickly as he could, more sparks shooting from his battered mechanical body. The bear swayed drunkenly, struggling to get its footing. Enraged, the bear aimed a paw at the man and fired the paw right off of its wrist like a rocket. The man blocked the flying rocket paw, but as there was no bear attached to it, he only managed to lower its aim, taking the punch right in the ribs. The bear laughed triumphantly and launched its other paw in the same manner. The man took the blow again in the ribs and stumbled back. The bear laughed, drooling with anticipation of its meal, and began to stumble forward. "All right," the man said, remaining hunched over as if wounded. "No more Mr. Nice Guy." He clenched his fists, and he let the bear move in. The bear's paws flew back to it, reconnecting with its arms, and the bear leaned over to finish the seemingly injured man off. The man sprung up. "Fooled you again, Mr. Bear!" He landed blow after blow, uppercutting the bear in the jaw. He grabbed the bear by the left arm, put a boot against the bear's side, and pulled with all of his manly might, his golden tan and sinewy muscles glistening in the dimming light of dusk, as he strained his manly body to its limits, finally pulling the arm from its socket. The bear wailed in surprise, stumbling back as the man went on the offensive, beating the bear where it stood with its own dismembered arm. Sparks and lightning bolts were flying with equal ferocity from the bear's failing mechanical body. At last the bear fell over, its fangs bared as if to take a bite out of the man in one final act of malevolence. But the man grabbed the bear by the neck as it fell and yanked its robotic head clean off of its neck. "Well," the man said, smiling at the bear's head in his hand, "that takes care of that." He laughed out loud with delight, and he drop-kicked the bear's head all the way from Dallas to Houston. As he watched the bear's head soar through the air, he nodded with satisfaction. All in a day's work. He turned back to the boys in his golden palomino. "Everyone okay?" "Yeah!" Randy shouted, elated. "That was bad-ass!" Nigel cheered. The man approached them, smiling but stern. Now, Nigel, do you kiss your grandmother with that mouth?" Nigel regarded the man in confusion. No." "How did you know his name?" Randy asked, still staring inappropriately. "Dude, eyes!" Nigel prodded. Right. Psh, Nigel shook his head. "Buy a magazine, dude." "Why? I've got the internet." "True." The man only smiled at the boy's hormone-addled shenanigans. "Well, I know a great many things, Randy. That's how I know your names. You see, it's always best to be prepared for any situation one might encounter. This was a dangerous episode in your lives. He put his strong, gloved hands on their shoulders. But I don't want this to scar you. No, I want you to remember this as the day you saw a man who was well prepared take full advantage of said preparation. Always, always expect the unexpected. And nothing will ever take you by surprise. For now, though, I just want you to go home, hug your parents, drink hot cocoa by the fireplace, play with your He-Mans and Luke Skywalkers, and, for gosh sakes, just be kids. With that, the man tipped his hat and mounted his horse, waving a fond farewell as he rode off into the sunset. "Dude," Nigel said, as he watched that heroic man of men ride off. "Who was that guy?" Randy shook his head in wonderment. "I don't know, man." He held up his phone. "But I sure as hell took an ass ton of pics." And so Nigel and Randy returned to their homes, safe and sound once more, perhaps never to know who that guy was. But they slept soundly in their beds that night, silently assured, as we all may be now that the tale has been told, that whenever an unexpected snow brings out violent, robot polar bears who want nothing but evil for all whom their paths may cross, no doubt that guy will be there as well, to gallantly save the day. You have been reading A Complete Failure of the Bechdel Test. Okay, so that was an unexpected snow. And yeah, I mean, I value the Bechdel test. That was kind of a, like, it was kind of a riff on Edgar Rice Burroughs. Let me get some water. Like, just my take on reading Edgar Rice Burroughs is very gay. Like, he's just, I'm not saying Edgar Rice Burroughs was gay. I'm just saying he really liked to write about muscly, sinewy, I can't speak, muscly, naked heroes. A lot. He liked to do that a lot and talk about their manly manness. So I kind of thought, like, putting that up against the Bechdel test, which is a test to hold any story up against, where it's like three criteria to pass or to measure your Bechdel score. It's like, I'm trying to remember them now. Are there more than, wait, okay, are there at least two female characters, I think is the first one. Unexpected Snow, there are no female characters. Do the two characters talk to each other is number 2. And number 3 is, when they're talking to each other, are they talking about something other than boys? So I thought it would be fun to deliberately fail the Bechdel test just to highlight the absurdity of doing so. That just, you know, the kind of writing that just is all manly man kind of writing. It's silly. It's funny, in my opinion. Like, but you know, I mean, a lot of stories do. Technically, the original Star Wars fails the Bechdel test, and it has one of the best female heroes in cinema history, Princess Leia. So it's just kind of a guide to gauge your own as a storyteller. You know, that's why I value it, because you can just kind of be aware of how, especially as a male author, how are you treating women in your story? Are they fully developed human beings? Or are they just like there to talk about boys and get rescued by heroes? Or are they not in the story at all? Um, I'm thinking of some famous writers who kind of forgot women existed from time to time. But yeah, so that's an unexpected snow. I've written a sequel to this story called "In Wine Lies the Truth," so that guy will write again. Meanwhile, if you enjoyed this story, hit the like button below. If you want to hear more of my stories, subscribe to my channel. And you can also find this story. It's available as a free PDF on my website, my author website, glensladeclarkjr.com. You can also get it for a price on your Kindle device at amazon.com. And also on my website, you can order a paperback version of it that's very, very thin. It's, I think it's got a lot of ads in the back to fill up the page count. But if you want something on your bookshelf, something tangible, you can order it exclusively through glensladeclarkjr.com in print. So until next time, thanks for listening.